Here's number 6. Number 6 key to achieving your ultimate goal on a regular basis, that is happiness, is very simple. Soften your rules. What do I mean by that? Well, you and I have talked about it, and I've alluded to it at least throughout this tape. We have developed a set of rules about what has to happen before we can feel good and have this experience called happiness. And unfortunately for many of us, we have very intense rules. That is, we have 80 things that have to occur before we can finally be happy. For example, today's woman, quote unquote. What does she have to do to be happy? Well, she has to be Superwoman. She has to take unbelievable care of her husband. She's got to take unbelievable care of herself. She's got to take unbelievable care of her kids. She's got to be a great businesswoman and career-oriented person. She's got to make sure she comes home and that everybody's fed and everybody's nurtured and everybody's supported. And then she's got to be a great lover for her husband, and she's probably exhausted. See, the bottom line is today's woman's been conditioned. You got to be perfect. You got to be all these things in order to feel fulfilled. With that many rules, with that many things having to be perfect for a person to feel fulfilled, they set themselves up for tremendous pain. Because it's going to be so hard to be perfect in all those areas all simultaneously. I don't know how today's woman can do it, much less today's man. He's got all his rules, too, that have been conditioned into him. And I know they vary from person to person, but my point is most of us got rules that make it difficult to feel good. Ask the average guy what he's got to do. He's got to be financially successful or successful in his career in order to feel happy. He's got to make it to a certain level. And you can't imagine what some people have done in terms of expanding their rules as they've done better. I was talking to a gentleman who's a big oil man. For him to feel successful, he has to have net available to invest in liquid assets for him on a consistent basis, $20 million. Now, think about that. That might create a little stress in your life. You know, that might be a little difficult for you to meet, especially if the most you've ever had liquid was 10 million. It'd be even worse, I guess, if you only had 10,000. But the point is, most of us have set ourselves up for failure, and some of us have rules that are impossible to meet. Classic example, a woman in a seminar one time in our Date with Destiny, and she had these problems in relationships, couldn't figure out why her relationships never lasted, why she never felt fulfilled. Well, she had totally conflicting rules. Her rules were that if you're attracted to her and you're a man, the way you express your attraction is you're the aggressive one. You come up and communicate your attraction, and you chase her. She acts like she's not interested and you chase her. But she has this other rule that says that if you chase her too long, then she loses respect and you're no longer attractive to her. And so she never felt happy or fulfilled in a relationship. Are you following me a little bit on this? I know it may sound weird, but we humans are weird. We got all these weird ideas of what has to occur before we can feel something. We've talked about this 20 times in this tape, but I've got to remind you again. When I talk to people that truly are happy, one of the major reasons is they got rules like, in order to be happy, I have to wake up. Or people say things like, every day above ground is a great day. How do I know if I'm happy or not? How do I know if I'm successful? If I wake up and look that I'm above ground, then I'm successful. The people that are unhappy say, I have to be at 8% body fat. I have to have my children's respect all the time and never have them talk back to me and never get frustrated with them. I have to absolutely know that I'm loved by all people all the time. I have to know that there'll never be a nuclear war. I have to know for the rest of my life that whatever goals I set out, I really will achieve. I'll give you a classic example of rules. I was reading a book by Gregory Bateson called An Ecology of Mind. If you ever try to read Gregory Bateson, you know it's pretty heavy-duty stuff to try and be able to interpret what he means. But I came across a story that I thought was actually so simple and so profound. It was a conversation that basically he just typed out word for word as part of the transcript and never explained it in any real detail. It was a story about muddled things and perfect things. And what it was is a conversation between himself and his daughter, where his daughter turned to him one day and said, Daddy, how come things get muddled so easily and they don't just stay perfect automatically? And Gregory Bateson, being a very intelligent man, said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, you know, Daddy, she goes, you know, things just don't stay perfect. They're only perfect for a minute or two, and then they're not perfect anymore. They get muddled. They get muddled so easily. And he said, I don't think I understand exactly. What do you mean by perfect, and what do you mean by muddled? She goes, you know, perfect, like, you know, when everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. He said, well, how do you know when everything's supposed to be? She said, well, you know, like on my desk. And he says, well, what do you mean specifically? And she said, well, you know, and when the papers are here. And he said, what else? He said, well, she said, when the flowers are here. And he said, what else? He said, well, when the phone is here. And what else? When the books are here. When this and 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 this is all that, then it's perfect. He said, when is it muddled? She said, well, when any of that's not like that. He said, you mean if I just move the papers over here, it's no longer perfect? She goes, yeah, it's not perfect anymore. It's got to be here to be perfect. He goes, what if I move the flowers? Oh, yeah, that would make... He said, you know what? The reason things are more muddled than perfect is not because things are more muddled, but because you got more ways for things to be muddled and less ways for things to be perfect. See, what a lot of us have done is we've set it up where 50 things all have to be happening simultaneously for us to feel good and be happy. But if just one's out of alignment, boy, do we get upset. In fact, have you ever noticed how things can be really great in your life, and then one thing, just one thing, can be out of alignment, and all of a sudden your whole focus goes there and your mind goes crazy. You start getting all upset and everything else when everything else in your life could be in great shape. We need to remind ourselves that if we got one thing going on well, things are going well. And the reality is, if you look at your life, how many things really are going well in your life if you were being honest with yourself? If you weren't judging by these unbelievable standards where everything has to be perfect simultaneously, where you were the ultimate man, the ultimate woman, the ultimate performer, the ultimate career person, how many things are really going well if you focused on them? But see, what we've got to do is we've got to make it so we have more ways to feel happy and less ways to feel unhappy. Point number 7. If you really want to be happy, use happy words to describe the way you're feeling on a consistent basis. Develop a habitual vocabulary that is filled with words that create pleasurable emotion within you. We have a lot more words to describe negative emotions than we do positive, and so we tend to use them more often sometimes. Anytime you're unhappy, I guarantee you're putting a word on your experience, a word that creates a judgment about it that is negative, that creates a negative emotion or feeling. So let me just offer you some words that are enjoyment or pleasure-oriented, happiness-oriented. Here they are: enjoyment, euphoria, a sense of well-being, a sense of contentment, ease, comfort, coziness, gratification, satisfaction, luxury, to relish something, to feel a zest for something, sweetness, entertainment, happiness, gladness, delight, dilection, joy, joyfulness, cheer, cheerfulness, exultation, exuberance, glee, sunshine, overjoyed, intoxicated, rapture, jubilation, celebration, gladdened, feasted, heartwarmed, fascinated, captivated, enthralled, enchanted, tickled, thrilled, beaming, basking in, starry-eyed, glowing, radiant. Those are just a few. What if when somebody said, "How's it going?" you said things different than okay, doing all right, surviving, hanging tough? If you were to use those kinds of phrases to describe how you're feeling, what you do is you immediately denigrate your experience. You lower the level of enjoyment you have by the words that you're using. Amplify your emotion by using new labels. If you're going to judge instead of perceive, why not judge by putting labels on your experience that make you feel great instead of words that make you feel lousy? It's a very simple thing, and it may sound so simple you may not do it. So think about it. If when you felt pretty good, you said, "I'm feeling excellent, I'm feeling outrageous, I'm feeling fabulous," if you kept saying that on a regular basis, would you not begin to feel that way rather than if you said, "I'm doing okay, fair to middling"? See, think about it. When you begin to use those phrases, you have to change your emotional state. And you may be feeling great, but you say, "I'm feeling okay" out of habit, and pretty soon you don't feel as good as you could have. Pay attention to the vocabulary you use consistently. You want to be happier? Build up a vocabulary. Write down some words that you're going to use. Maybe some of the ones I just dropped on you to make yourself feel great. Or if you really want to feel like heck, here, I can offer you some words to use on a regular basis. Talk about how unpleasing things are to you, or displeasing, or disagreeable, or undesirable, or unappealing, or unattractive, or unengaging, or uninviting, or distasteful, or unsavory, or unpalatable, or ugly, or offensive, or objectionable, or repugnant, or contrary to your feelings, or repulsive, or vile, or nasty, or noxious, or rotten, or putrid. How's your life? How you doing today? Putrid. Think of how you'd feel if you did that. Horrible, horrid, atrocious, atrocity, hideous, terrible, awful, dire, hostile, antagonistic, averse, unfriendly, uncared for, unvalued, unprized, despised, lowly, unpopular, out of favor, misunderstood, misprized, unbeloved, uncherished, loveless, forsaken, rejected, jilted, thrown over, spurned. If you really want to feel bad, just pick from that list and use those kinds of words to describe your life, your relationships, your business on a regular basis. I guarantee no problem you'll be depressed in a short period of time. See, if you want to change your life, change your habitual vocabulary. Do it now. Simple step. Write down a couple of words you use on a regular basis to describe how you're feeling that make you feel even worse than you really were feeling. And then decide you're not going to use the words to describe yourself or how you're feeling for the next 30 days till you and I get together again. Sound like a deal? Just try it and see what happens. And in their place, write down the words that you want to use on a regular basis to describe how you're feeling, how you're doing in your life. And make sure they're words that amplify the positive emotion. That's point 7.